Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Good evening, Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to The Local Live. I'm Anthony Carlo.
And I'm Erica Lynn. We're here to bring you up to date with the local news and community stories happening around you.
Meet your newly elected trustees. Based on unofficial results on the Board of Elections website, Ilissa Miller was re-elected and David Finch was newly elected to the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees. They will be joining Mike Witch and Maura Carlin later on to answer your questions. Did you miss LMC TV's special election live coverage? We've got a recap of everything that happened on election night. Care to take a guess on which team made our LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week?
Let's look back on the history of Sal's Pizzeria. They celebrate their 50th anniversary.
You'll want to stay tuned to the last minute of this broadcast to watch our election night behind-the-scenes coverage.
And we've got a puppy who needs a home. We're here to help him find one.
Elections took place this past Tuesday, November 4th, and it was as exciting as ever. LMC TV covered the election live with up-to-the-minute results, district by district.
In the Village of Mamaroneck, Democrats and Republicans fought to secure votes for trustees' contests. The ballot totals were very close, and our reporters were there to capture the nail-biting excitement from both parties.
I'm Ashley Ballone reporting for The Local Live, and right now I am here at the Democratic headquarters in the Village of Mamaroneck. We are just minutes away from the results, and we got a chance to talk to the candidates to see how they're feeling and how they think that the campaigning process went.
The biggest challenge is setting priorities. There's a lot to get done, a lot we want to get done, but we have to organize ourselves to figure out what the priorities are going forward of what can be accomplished and the order in which we will accomplish them.
While we've been talking about the issues and talking about the things that are important, we really haven't sat down and talking about what we are going to do to have a constructive approach when, quite frankly, we have the mayor and the deputy mayor who have been rather antagonistic.
This has been a tough campaign season. There's just no doubt about it. I really would like to focus on bringing us together more as a community, having us understand each other a little bit better. This is not about politics. It's not about, which side of the tracks you live on and where you come from and the haves and the have-nots. We're all the same. We all care about the same things.
While Ashley was at the Democratic headquarters, Local Live correspondent Brian Donnelly was with the Republicans at the Elks Lodge.
Hi, this is Brian Donnelly. I'm here with Republican candidate for Village of Mamaroneck trustee, Michael Iannello. Tell me about the preliminary results so far. How do you feel?
Well, the preliminary results were a little disappointing, obviously. It looks like a 200-point race. Hopefully, and we always have our hopes up, when the official count is made, maybe there was a few mistakes. We won't concede yet until the official count is in. At that point, we will see what the village voters have wanted, and we'll support them. If it's against us, we'll support them. Obviously, we'd like to win. That's why we ran.
Say all the three Democrats take seats on the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees. How do you see that board working together with 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans?
Unfortunately, I'm not sure if the board will be as cohesive as wished. One of the questions that I actually proposed at the Orienta Point Association debate was if the 3 of them were elected, would they be able to move forward cohesively and make constructive decisions? And they all, unfortunately, replied very negatively. So I am looking forward to being a volunteer on the volunteer boards. Hopefully I can join more boards. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how progressive our future of the village will be for the next years because of the partisanship.
I'd like to say that I hope it goes better than it's gone in the past. I hope that everyone learns how to be civil with each other. I hope everyone learns that Mamaroneck is a diverse community and keeps their racist comments in check. I hope that people realize that flooding is an issue here, that we shouldn't downplay it, and we shouldn't downplay our tax dollars that are being spent. And we really need to work together for the better of our residents.
By the ballot's end, Democrats came out with a majority vote. Here's LMC TV host and producer Alice Bloom with the preliminary results.
Mamaroneck, it appears to be a very clear margin of victory for the Democratic candidates for trustee, with Ilissa Miller coming in at
2134, David Finch 2100, and Leon Potok at 2098.
Okay. And then the Republican challengers, who are all newcomers.
Maggie Lee O'Neill, 1,898. Michael Iannello, 1,852. And Stephanie Lividini, 1,849.
Now, in the senatorial race, the 37th district, where Joe Dillon is challenging incumbent George Latimer, with 12% of the votes counted.
And those numbers, yeah, that probably works out.
It looks like, because right now the numbers are 3,717 for George Latimer, 2,969.
Right, and we don't know where
Joe
those
Dillon.
numbers came from.
Right. You mean what districts?
What district? It could be from Yonkers. It could be from, upstate a little bit more.
LMC TV producer Shayla Navarro was there for the first reactions of the newly elected officials.
I'm Shayla Navarro, and we are reporting live from the Democratic headquarters here at Roasted Peppers in the heart of the village of Mamaroneck. Now let's hear from our Democrat candidates.
This has been remarkable. Before I talk about, the victory that we just achieved tonight, I need to put a big call out to Stephanie Lividini, to Maggie Lee O'Neill, and to Michael Iannello, and to really thank you for having the courage, the conviction, the drive to really put yourself out there. And we wouldn't be here, and you wouldn't be where you are. And it takes a community and everything that you do. Thank you so much. There you go.
Well, it's always better to win. First off, I'd like to really thank our opponents, Maggie, Stephanie, and Mike, for the courage of stepping up and volunteering to run for office. As someone who's done it, I can say it's not easy to step up, but it is a lot of fun once you get into it. I look forward to the next 2 years of working with a great team. We've worked together great during the campaign. I look forward to 2 great years ahead of us.
That I am so pleased and honored to be joining 2 members of the Board of Trustees who have set a standard over the last 2 years of ethical, civil, polite service to the community. And I'm so glad to be able to join them in continuing that tradition. And I have to thank our opponents, because they gave us an opportunity to show the difference that we make. Taking the high road, setting service to the community as a standard that we really believe in. And so now the journey starts.
New York State residents chose George Latimer to be their senator for a second term. Ashley Balone spoke with the senator minutes before his victory. He spoke about the challenges he faces upon returning to Albany.
Well, the first thing that you get every new year is a budget, and in that budget are going to be a host of different priorities and issues. School aid for Mamaroneck schools and Rhinebeck schools. We still have a terrible property tax burden. We talked about it in the campaign, and it doesn't change after the election. It's not like it's a new set of issues. And it is the unfunded mandates, in my judgment, that create the problems at Village Hall and Town Hall and school districts, and I'm going to try harder to try to get more of my colleagues to see that as a priority. And if we can change that, then we can affect the change in property tax pressure that people are under.
Congratulations to all of the newly elected officials in our community. As always, LMC TV, hosted and run by community volunteers, was the only television broadcast covering your local elections.
In the Media connects you to what's trending in our community. Let's hear what Mike Witch has to say on the stories trending in our online news sources.
The Daily Voice reports that Mamaroneck Village Board will retain its Democratic majority, 2 incumbents plus Dave Finch having won the most of the 11,000 plus votes cast on Tuesday. Voters on Tuesday approved all 3 New York State proposals. This means borrowing money for school technology and construction, a new way for legislators to peruse bills, and a redistricting amendment. LowHUD.com has that story. Some MHS students participated in the recent elections as a component of their social studies class. The Hamlet Hub has the story as well as a link to the video the students created. It's worth a look. In the Mamaroneck Review, we read that parking meters along a section of Mamaroneck Avenue will be replaced by multimeters, despite a request by the mayor for more study. The Village Board also voted down a request by the Harbor and Coastal Zone Management Commission. The commission asked for more time to review proposed legislation on development around the train station, so-called transit-oriented development. It was a controversial vote, and the Mamaroneck Review has the details. I read in the Larchmont Mamaroneck Voice about the announced merger of 2 local Catholic parishes. Most Holy Trinity on Post Road will close next year. Parishioners have been invited to join St. Vito's. The Voice has the details as well as a link from the official notice of the Archdiocese of New York. And finally, the Loop reports that our town and both villages got really bad grades from See Through New York, a respected investigative enterprise of the Empire Center for Public Policy. The center judges our local government and school district websites with failing to provide taxpayers with basic, easy-to-find information. So are 85% of the websites throughout the state. Get a full report card in the current Loop. Well, those are just a few of the local stories that caught my eye this week in the media. I'm Mike Witch.
You're watching the local live on LMC TV.
Election day has come and gone, but you can still meet the candidates, now trustee-elects. According to the unofficial results on the Board of Elections website, the 3 Democrats were elected, and 2 of them are here tonight to talk about what's on tap for the Friendly Village.
As usual, you could participate in this discussion by telephone, email, or tweet. Let us know what you're thinking and ask your questions. And let's get the conversation going.
Okay, well, joining us are the newly re-elected Village of Mamaroneck trustee Ilissa Miller and newly elected trustee-elect David Finch. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I should say that the 3 Democrats, you and your colleague incumbent trustee Leon Podak, who couldn't be here tonight, took the 3 available seats. Is there a message that you as Democrats take from these election results?
Yeah, I think the message is that the village is ready to be mature again and to grow up and to really handle itself with decorum, civility, and class, and to have people who are thoughtful about how we make decisions here. Do you have anything?
I want to take slight issue with the way you asked the question, because you said we as Democrats, and it really has nothing to do with Democrats. It is in our system, Party A and Party B, if you will, in order to have candidates, and actually have candidates who have some differences in their allegiance to maybe other persons, to the mayor specifically, the deputy mayor. But the labels of Democrats and Republicans in the village really have no relevancy whatsoever.
Are you saying you don't think that political parties are really necessary in politics at this level?
I don't know that they're necessary. You need to be organized in order to be able to do outreach. It takes a lot of effort to do these elections, and what easier way to do that than under parties? So it just becomes a natural way to run it. But I have to tell you that everything that we did was across party lines. We had plenty of Republican candidates who said they couldn't vote for us in the primary, but they would be there to support us through the general election. We had a tremendous amount of support, absolutely across the board.
We can get into some specifics if we have time now.
Go ahead.
Okay, we had some questions that came in ahead of the show. This is from Nancy to both of you, and apparently Leon Potok said something about flooding not being a big issue, and her question is, do you agree?
I think it just depends on what context that you're talking about, because I think that Leon will be the first to tell you that flooding is a big issue here in the village. And specifically, I would assume that they would be referring to what's happening in the TOD area and the Transit-Oriented Development District and what studies are there. And that is a very big concern for that particular area. There is flooding. It's above an aquifer. And the type of rezoning that's required or being requested is going to increase the building size onto these smaller lots, which is going to decrease where runoff is going to go to and where water goes to. And when water starts to rise, it's just going to create problems for those buildings. So I think Leon will be the first one to tell you that it probably was taken out of context, but flooding is a huge issue.
Okay. Before we get to more specific questions, let me just ask you, Mamaronec's moniker is as the friendly village. Did you think that the campaign was friendly?
Pretty much. Pretty much. We had cordial relationships with each other. There was a little slippage, but I think most of us tried to. It's not constructive when the camera's on to be anything other than friendly, and I think most of us were cognizant of that. And when I say cameras on, an audience, even without a camera. And I would say I think we tried very hard to make sure that we didn't do anything that would be considered lowball.
Okay. Well, village meetings don't always come across as so friendly. What's that about?
Well, I think you'll see a tremendous difference now that you have Dave Finch on the board with us. I think that there's going to be a way that we will be able to conduct ourselves. We're not going to be sidelined by ancillary issues that other board members periodically took forth, even when it was inappropriate for a public board meeting. So you're going to see a very different board. You're going to see very different types of focus from us. And
well, let me ask you about that, because the meeting is run by the mayor.
Absolutely.
And neither of you is the mayor. So I guess what I'm asking is, how does anything change when,
So I'll put
I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. Okay, I guess that's the best way.
There's a couple of things. When as a board, the first thing that we do is we organize. We organize who's on the committees. We organize our rules of procedures, and we have the ability to change and have influence on those rules of procedures as a majority of the board. So that's number one. But number two, if you take a look at the makeup of the board previously, the biggest issues that were ever brought up, that were sideline issues, were brought up by Trustee Bermudez Hallstrom. And so without him there, I think you're going to see a lot of cleaner, more direct, very much focused on the issues at hand and what those issues mean to the village. I think we're going to be able to work much better together. Unbeknownst to Lou and Norm, we have all due interest and respect for them and want to do what's right for the village together. Yes, we have the majority, but it's so much better when we have the major majority.
Why don't we go and see what some of your neighbors are saying or wondering about? So we're going to go to a videotape right now. I hope.
We're doing environmental work, but we haven't created a long-term vision for where we want to be down the road in cleaning up our environment. And I think the board really needs to begin to do a long-term look at our problems and how to solve them, and not do just short-term fixes.
There are many issues that need to be dealt with. We do live in a coastal environment. Flooding is a main concern. I believe that past officials have not dealt with this problem adequately, and I'm hoping that the new officials that will come in will be more open to it and deal with it more efficiently than it has been in the past.
I think that this development and increase in commercial activity at all costs without thoughtful analysis or input is very dangerous. I think it's threatening the character of the community that we've got, the village being a coastal community with good residential areas, a good school system, an appropriate but not overbearing commercial center. And I think that all that is at risk with this movement.
I think both parties need to take action on people themselves. There's an emphasis on taxes and buildings and tennis courts and things that belong to the elite community, the physical aspects of the village. I think we need to spend a lot more time on the people, on all the people, especially the people that that are set aside and that I call others, those that are living on the other side of the tracks.
What I expect is a change in demeanor, and hopefully whoever it is that is elected will stop bickering, fighting, and focus on the issues rather than the ego tripping and backbiting that's going on. This causes the issues to be put on the back burner and not handled in a timely manner.
Okay, so we've seen comments from 5 people. Let's take them apart. Let's talk about long-term vision. What is your long-term vision for the village?
Very much. We have to have a long-term vision. We have a master plan that was adopted in 2012, and we have not, as a board, been very careful enough to look at that and to address some of the issues that we're working on to do that. So we've got TOD, which is a great long-term solution to some development, but the Industrial Area Committee is also looking at long-term solutions as well to improving that particular area of the district. And we have the Army Corps of Engineers study that is also a long-term project that is going to help us provide solutions, we hope, to the flooding that happens throughout the majority of the village.
There's one long-term area that I think needs to be addressed very seriously also, and that's housing in general, specifically affordable housing. And affordable housing isn't just for people who are hourly wages. Our affordable housing applies to our retired and senior citizens also, who are fixed incomes and are getting squeezed by our taxes. And we have areas where there's been discussion about lack of code enforcement, for instance, but people live there. And I think we have to be much more sensitive to making sure that what we do applies to the people who live there, that we aren't forcing people out of our community. The TOD has that risk. And there was one report at the HCZMC about an elderly woman who lived in a basement. And it was a tragic case. A lot of basements apartments are code violations. And particularly a basement apartment that's probably, its floor is 2 feet above the top of the aquifer. And we have problems like that. And this is not a problem of her causing. She's almost to a degree a victim of it. And we have to deal with those infrastructural aspects of our village that are very real, and try to see how we can accommodate the people of our village by upgrading their housing, upgrading employment, upgrading opportunities.
I want to ask, how does one do that?
I don't have a clue. But you've got to start by being sensitive to it and realize that's an aspect of long-term planning that goes beyond providing attractive financial incentives for builders, for example.
Okay, well, someone else asked about the coastal environment and the flooding issue. And I know this transit-oriented development, is that what the D's for? There's some concern because it's in a flood area, but the coastal flooding is different.
Yeah, coastal flooding is different. So I think that it was in the context of being careful about how we develop the coastal lands of our village. So, you know, in New Rochelle, they have a lot of large condominiums on the water. There's a lot of issues when you're building on the edge on the sea. It's infrastructure underneath. It's the ability to make sure that we can maintain and sustain that. There's roadways, there's services, there's a whole variety of different things that you have to consider. And what we found, at least a year or so ago, there was an issue with the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club where they had a sewage leak going on into Guyon Creek. And that was not an easy find, and it was only found when we were doing water testing, because we do that frequently. And the more development we have on the water, the more issues we're exposing ourselves to, especially with a 100-year-old infrastructure that we have.
So is it fair to say that you're against bigger buildings on the coast?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you know, if it's the right type of development, and it so happens to be on the coast, that's one thing. But is it change? It has to be consistent with our zoning. It has to be consistent with our village-wide master plan.
LWRP.
Right. Our LWRP, which is the local waterfront revitalization plan that is the blueprint, if you will, for the entire village. And we also want to make sure that whatever we do, that it's in partnership with the development, so that our infrastructure, which is, you know, public, is also maintained and looked after. So you have to be very careful. But no, I'm not. It's not that I'm anti-development.
Okay.
It's the right type of development that's really important to consider.
Okay. Before we get to more of these issues, were there questions that you wanted to get to?
Yes, there are actually two topics that are specifically addressed to you. Harry and Robert both had questions about your attendance. Alleging that you missed, they said, about 10% of the meetings. That was one thing. And the other one has to do with the Latino comment that you made, and how you're becoming more sensitive to the Latino population.
Well, you know, there's no doubt about it. Harry Hazelwood is all after me on the internet. You could take a look over social media. Thanks, Harry. Really appreciate being a fan. No, at 10% of the meetings, I might not have been there physically, but I was there. There is a state law that allows you to participate in meetings through Skype. Oh. This is a job that doesn't pay enough for you to be able to support your family. It's just over $4,500 a year. And so it is highly considered a part-time job. And so there's no one that can, you know, not dial in. The mayor dials in, the mayor misses meetings quite frequently. And as a matter of fact, on Monday night, I will be Skyping in from Ireland, because I have to go to Ireland for business. I'll be speaking at some conferences there. So, you know, that's a big imposition if you think about it. The meeting starts at 7:30 Eastern time. That means at 12:30 in the morning, I'm making myself available to this village. It's something that I choose to do. I don't have to do it, but I choose to do it. I can be absent, absolutely absent, but I don't want to, because that would be disappointing the village, the people in the village that elect me. So that I'm going to address that straight up. Okay. I think if you do the math, it's definitely highly less than 10%.
But that's interesting. I'm guessing that most people who watch it on LMC TV don't realize that you're in attendance by Skype.
Well, you can see.
You
when
can.
you're watching, you can see, and there is interaction, and I am talking. My votes count when I'm there on Skype. If you only call in, your votes don't count. And so on various occasions, the mayor has called in to our meetings, to work sessions, and he's also been absent at public meetings. He gives up his right to vote during those meetings, and that's okay. I don't want to participate as an ancillary person. I want to be able to participate fully. That's why I make the effort to Skype.
I imagine that a lot of residents don't even realize how much time you put in. You trustees, not just the public meetings, but as you said, the work sessions and other committee meetings that you must attend to, because you're all liaisons, aren't you, to various committees?
Absolutely.
But let's not forget the Latino question.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. So, you know, that was there's no mistake about it. I had poor choice of words, and the way that the interview went, the latter part of my statements were not followed. But that does not dismiss the fact that I had very poor choice of words. And I have apologized publicly. I've reached out to the community, and I am absolutely dedicated to learning more about what I don't know. It's clear that I don't know. Quite a bit. There's a lot of people out there who are highly professional, who have extended degrees, and they get discriminated against because they have accents or they have a certain color of skin. And that's not right. And I'm here as someone in the community who is absolutely willing and dedicated to bridging that divide and helping us bring together. And what I learned from that incident is only going to help us be a much stronger community as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you about the transit-oriented development. Well, actually, before I do that, I wanted to ask you about the Army Corps of Engineers plan. Where does it stand now? That people have asked that.
Yeah, so the Army Corps of Engineer plan, so there was a consensus amongst the board that said, yes, you know, we are interested to have the Army Corps of Engineer come back to the village and build out a plan and to present us with a solution that's going to be viable.
Let me interrupt you because we have had Mr. Slingerland on to explain where it stands. Oh, this is a while ago, where the plan has come back and there are options at different price levels.
Yep, and we as a board selected an option and said, okay, Army Corps of Engineer, we are interested to consider this option. That's what they needed from us because they're not going to build out these fancy 3D models and show us exactly how it's going to affect everything without us giving them the direction on what we might
So
have
which
in
model
mind.
did you select?
We chose, I think it was 9B or something. I can't remember exactly which model it was, but it was something that was going to enable reduce flooding for more than 80% of those in that particular area. It was not the most expensive, but it was the most reasonable as compared to how many people that the plan affected. However, it doesn't mean that the Army Corps of Engineer plan is actually going ahead. So I want to make that clear.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand.
It's very clear that the community understands that we just gave them a green light to say, yes, we're highly interested, we're very interested. There's a lot of steps and processes that still need to take place, including engaging with the community, reviewing the specifics of the plans, how that's going to affect the community, should it be rolled out, and how many years is it going to take to actually accomplish this, and what is that going to do to the landscape of our entire village, which it will change. And until we understand all of the ramifications of that, I don't think this board or any future board, because I don't know that it's necessarily even going to happen during our reign, is that the specifics of this are going to need to be taken a look at. And then
well, has funding been granted by the federal?
Not at all. There's been earmarked funding that I know our Senator Schumer, is really supportive about, and he is really gunning for us, as well as our governor in the state. And we have a lot of really influential people backing us for this, but no funding has been actually granted, and we're expecting February, March timeframe, the Army Corps to come back with their detailed plan to actually go through with us step by step what it will take in order to implement this, and then we go after the funding aspect of it. So that could take a while.
I didn't understand that. Now, how does that play into a proposed transit-oriented development center? Because as I recall, there were boats floating down Mamaroneck Avenue, exactly where.
But I'll take a stab at that. Give you a bit of a rest. Directly, it doesn't.
Okay.
However, the the TOD for developers doesn't necessarily change anything. A developer can go in now under current zoning and do whatever that zoning allows. The overlay provides changes that can incent a developer to add things to his package, to add things he probably wouldn't do otherwise, and to give him partial, at least, compensation for that. Developer doesn't have to do it, doesn't have to take the incentives, and therefore doesn't have to do the various add-ons. The Army Corps of Engineer project doesn't play to this directly, but it's hard for me to imagine how any developer would consider that either doing it under current zoning or the TOD overlay zoning would be attractive and economic unless the Army Corps of Engineers is going to be mitigating the flooding. There are incentives for ground floor retail
Okay, so are you saying it's hard to do one without the other? Or
I can't imagine how it would be economic for a developer to take the bonus for ground floor retail unless there's some assurance that it's not going to get 100-year flooding every other year.
So I'm gathering that there's still a lot of discussion to go about the proposed TOD?
Well, the TOD, we have legislation currently in review with the board that is going to amend the zoning. It will make many of the properties there more compliant with the zoning because when you're not compliant, you have to go through the ZBA and get all these special permits, and it creates a real barrier to developers and anyone interested. So who wants to buy a property where it's not zoned properly, and then every time and every year they have to go and request special permits in order to do what they want to do? So we're trying to really streamline that process to make it known what is the most viable construction to put in those particular areas.
And
that's
that
our focus.
decision hasn't been made yet?
That's in the process now. We have public hearings going on right now.
Okay, so anyone who wants that to see where it stands can go to your village website?
Go to the village website, and they can come to our public meetings. Our next one is on Monday at 7:30 at Village Hall.
Okay. I'm getting prompts that we need to go to another videotape with some more comments from your community.
Oh, cool.
That whoever is elected will start by trying to put friendly back into the village. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree on everything all the time. But if somebody has a question, they should be given an answer and not said, thank you, that's it.
There are a lot of people who have different backgrounds. And I think if we all work together and public comment turning into discussion could really make this village a shining star for the future.
Anyone who's elected and sits in those seats of the Board of Trustees really needs to turn to the people who want to take the issues and run with them. That's what it's about. Those are the people who are going to make the changes that we need under the laws that exist, but in the state and in the federal government.
I expect trustees to vote in the best interest of all residents. What we have seen with the past board is trustees who vote to please certain people, and that's simply wrong. It's undemocratic. They should keep in mind that they were elected by the people, and they should vote for the people.
And I think what is important is that when leaders come into a position of trust, that they begin, continue, and end their tenure without a predisposition of how a certain group should fit in a community or a society.
Some of the citizens we have spoken to today have stood up at this very podium to voice their opinion at several public hearings. Whether their views may or may not differ from elected officials, they stepped forward on behalf of their community, and their input is essential for the existence of democracy in the village of Mamaroneck.
Okay, we hope you enjoy that video hearing from some of the Mamaroneck residents. Mike,
And speaking of that podium, any change to the public comment period at village board meetings?
There will be.
Okay. Enough said?
We've made a pledge.
As someone who doesn't like to wait for the end of a meeting myself.
Well,
I
they
may
do
just be
get
there.
they
Yes.
do get long.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to thank anyone you want to thank.
You know, the outpouring of support from the community has been tremendous, and we wouldn't be here without steadfast support from Elizabeth Sanger and Randy Rabinowitz, for starters. There have been a whole slew of people. I'm sure you have a bunch more names to come after, but the entire community has been really terrific. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just beginning to learn the names. You could roll back 3 or 4 months ago, I hadn't even received a phone call that started the ball rolling to me being in this process. And so the whole process has been very interesting, thrilling, gratifying, and the support I've received, not only from my own team, but the people who are assisting us, the volunteers, and the community that has bewilders me that I've been able to establish a rapport with people that they were willing to vote for me. And that pleases me no end. Yeah, there's one other person I'm going to have to thank rather consistently for the next 2 years, and that's my wife. She's
Yes, goes without saying.
she's just beginning to understand, Ilissa and you, Mike, we're both referring to the tasks that the trustees take on. And she's going to have to be very understanding for the next 2 years.
Let me just get the timetable right, because the election tallies are not final yet. They have to be certified. 25 days, does that sound about right?
About right.
When, assuming it gets certified, when do you take office? Well, you're in office, but...
December 1st.
December 1st. Okay. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. We're out of time. This is Ilissa Miller, who is a trustee and a trustee-elect, and David Finch, who is a new trustee-elect to the Village of Mamaroneck Board.
And we'll be right back with more community news in a moment.
I'm Nancy Seligson, Mamaroneck Town Supervisor, and you are watching The Local Life on LMC TV.
This week in sports, the Rhinebeck boys soccer team was deadlocked in a tie with Valhalla in the sectional semifinal, and the game had to be decided in penalty kicks. Rhinebeck goalie Rich Barrios saved a Valhalla shot. Noah Klur then sent Panther fans home happy with the winner in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
It's 2-2 here. Fourth shooter, Pullum shot will be saved! 2 in a row, saved by Barrios, and it'll be 2-2. Fourth shooter coming for Rhinebeck. The goal, shot scored!
Always a challenge for the goalie when it comes down to penalty kicks. That's our play of the week. Now let's kick it to our spotlight of the week.
This week, Sal's Pizzeria is in the spotlight. Let's get cooking and help them celebrate.
Pizza is America's favorite food, and I'm here today in the village of Mamaroneck to taste Sal's legendary pizza in honor of their 50th anniversary. Sal's first opened for business in 1964. Stephen DeRose, one of Sal's 3 sons, took us back to the early days.
This picture here, my father Sal, when he first opened in the original location 2 doors down. This is the original oven, which we still use today. This picture here is when they moved over to this location. The original price of the slice was 20 cents. In this picture, it seems to be a few years after that. A pie is $2.
The good old days.
Yeah, and so this picture here is Pat, who still works here. I guess this is late 70s, and this is maybe last year. Pat still works here. He's been here for 37 years.
Sal, who has counted former Yankee manager Joe Torre among his legions of loyal customers, is now retired, and the pizzeria is now in the experienced hands of his 3 sons.
As far as me and my 2 brothers, we all started working here as soon as we were allowed to, so around 13, 14 years old.
So I guess you got pretty good at a young age at making pizzas.
Well, I actually don't make pizza. My brothers both do, but I refuse to learn how to make pizza. I'm more of the business end of the business.
To celebrate their 50th anniversary in Mamaroneck, the DeRosa family hosted a giant block party on Mamaroneck Avenue this past August.
We had several thousand people here. We gave away 50-cent slices, just salad pizza, Sicilian and regular, for the duration of the party. We had an inflatable obstacle course outside. We had a mobile arcade for the kids. We gave away T-shirts. We gave away sausage and pepper sandwiches, Italian ices, hot dogs, and the line extended down the block to about O'Neill's for about 3-4 hours.
I, Norman Roseboom, Mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck, hereby declare that August 24th, 2014 be officially recognized as Sal's Pizza, and Sal DeRose, Teresa DeRose, Salvador DeRose Jr., Stephen DeRose, and Michael DeRose Day, forever now in the Village of Mamaroneck, ushering in the next half century of dedication to service and family.
We were honored. My father built a great business, and we wanted to give back to the community, and we were honored that so many people showed up to celebrate with us that day.
What is it that draws customers to Sal's year after year?
We were known for the best Sicilian in this area and a little further reaching. We were named on a top 100 list in the country for having the best Sicilian. Very proud of that. Old family recipe.
The Sicilian is to die for. If you're in here and a fresh Sicilian comes out of the oven, you have to try it. It's the best.
Oh, I always get their Sicilian because it's not too thick, it's perfect, nice and crispy, it's delicious.
Well, I've been coming here since I was 13 years old. I'm originally from Mamaroneck. I live in White Plains now, and still no matter what, I come all the way down to Sal's to get my Sicilian pie. I think it's the best ever made.
From Sal's Pizzeria in the Village of Mamaroneck, this is Rebecca Berman for the Local Live.
Hello Mamaroneck, I'm Carly Rose and you are watching The Local Live.
When Tommy's former family could no longer care for him, they brought him to the people who could, the New Rochelle Humane Society. Tommy is a well-behaved dog that is friendly with people and even other dogs.
For more information on how to adopt Tommy or the many other pets looking for loving homes, please visit www.newrochellehumanesociety.org.
And that's all the time we have for this week, but before we go, we'd like to thank Christina Carino-Forrest for sharing her Halloween pictures with us. Remember, you too can share your photos with The Local Live at lmctv.org.
And of course, folks, if you did miss this broadcast, you can always tune in any night this week at 7:30 p.m. to watch again. Channel 75 on Cablevision and 36 on Verizon. For LMC TV, I'm Anthony Carlo.
And I'm Erica Lynn. Stay tuned after the credits to watch a special behind-the-scenes video of our election night coverage. Thanks again for watching.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
MCTV. I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.